Greeting commanders, and we are live in this sampling and chill situation where we're really helping progress the Thargoid war by sampling away together with a few fellow commanders here in a wing, which is the most effective way to progress the war. What I'm doing here is I'm firing all my limpets at a single berserker, which is being kept alive specifically for the purpose of sampling by this wing, and then as Thargoid stout samples come back, I will abandon them. What's happening around here is that there is a cutter, which is collecting, and we're collecting limpet. We collect the limpet, so as soon as we jettison them, the cutter basically collects them. It is also tanking. Like, the cutter has a bi-weave, and it is tanking the damage from the scout itself. And with bi-weaves and like hover reinforcement packages, this cutter is practically immortal against that single scout. It also shoot down in additional scouts when they do spawn every now and then, like this is the case. Like we're now being attacked, but again, they will be quickly shot down. And this is it, really. We do this, we wait, we repeat this, and we sample and chill. Like, as all we need is to continue doing this over and over and over again. And chatting away. And if you want to chat about anything, about the war, about the about what's going on, and now I have my window capture enabled, which is speed disabled. Somehow, there we go. And somehow it's still showing. There you go, fixed. All right, we again are gathering samples from one of the systems that we're trying to retake next week, which is Cephei Sector XO-A B2. And oh, I should open my cargo hatch to actually get my Thargoid tissue samples. Otherwise, obviously, that doesn't work. And out goes the oval research inputs again. Again, this ship has a significant amount of regular cargo, but it doesn't have a lot of caustic cargo capacity. It only has like a 16-ton rack. The reason being, you don't need it because like you're dumping samples as they come in, and consequently you only need that buffer of 16 so that you don't get corrosion the moment a single sample starts coming in. And as a reminder, if you subscribe to the channel, you can chat immediately in the chat, and I'm here to essentially chat with you guys. Like, as I said, it's really sampling and chill while we sample away. And while Olympus come back, I'll give you another kind of external view of like what we're doing here, speeding it up ideally. There we go. Again, we have two Type 9s here, which have Research Olympic controllers pretty much exclusively, which are sampling this lone berserker, which is kind of like giving us a disproportionate number of samples at a concurrent time. And then we have a friendly cutter of another commander with collector limpets ready, that when we dump the samples, the collector limpets will pick them up. And this is essentially our tank and transporter ship. We found the fastest way to gather Thargoid tissue samples. It's not exactly engaging gameplay, but it's kind of chill and relaxing. It allows you to kind of chat and have fun with people. Is learning flight assist off required to farm Spire sites? Absolutely not. Spire sites are super easy. In fact, I fly most of the time on Spire sites in flight assist on. It's very rare that I will be using flight assist off at the Spire site. I would only do so if I'm kind of trying to make a hard turn around a Spire for any reason. That almost never happens. Or if I'm targeting and shooting scouts, while it might Anaconda is at a pretty steep vertical angle, then it's kind of handy to use flight assist off as it helps with your aim. But other than that, flight assist off is absolutely not required for Spire sites. 07 Santiago. While we're talking about Spire sites, I actually have finished producing a video that explains pretty much all you need to know as far as the basics of getting going at Spire sites is concerned. It's a collaboration with the Yamix. When Yamix finishes his overall video, it will go live. And then I will, after some delay, publish it also as a standalone guide on my channel as well. What's the reason this sampling is so important rather than just destroying them? The reason it's so important is that sampling is the activity that gives overall the biggest war progress of any activities, to a point where we have strengths of systems actually measured in samples. Let me see if I can actually show you. Yeah, I can. Let me pull up the random spreadsheet. There you go. So these are the different systems, and I'm like highlighting here the sort of ones that have been cleared now and the ones that are yet to be cleared. Like we expressed the overall strength in number of samples that need to be turned in for the system to be cleared at 100%. Like for instance, this Lindsay's sectors will require 15,746 samples to be turned in, and the carrier that is dedicated to gathering samples for that one actually has none on board. So that one will require some additional work, even though it is already at 30% progression to get to 100 if we are trying to clear it this week, which by the way is not essential because it's within the 10 outermost systems from the Titan, which means that the Spire, this particular Spire that I'm highlighting here, will allow us to progress all the systems next week, assuming that there are no additional alerts, up to 85%, just by combat and very quickly, which is why we are saving these 15% values on our carriers. This is the Great Oya sampling event that some of you might have heard about, and we're pretty far on that regard. Like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carriers full out of a total of what was 10. Now we're bringing 2 additional carriers to finish these 2 additional systems. So we're kind of pretty well advanced as far as like progress for next week even. Now shifting back to sampling for a moment, because we need to drop these for our friendly cutter to pick them up, and then we need to fire our research limpets again for us to continue gathering samples. As you can see, you can fire them all at the same time. Now the one thing you need to do for this to work properly, which is also not particularly conducive to like fantastic gameplay, is you need to set your FPS limit at, where did it go? There you go. Your frame rate limit at 30 Hertz. Don't ask me why, but the game engine completely gets messed up if you set this higher and all your samples get destroyed instead of coming in properly. If you set this to only 30 Hertz, most samples, up to 90% of your samples, come back healthy. So this is required when doing mass sampling as we're doing now. Again, not exactly engaging, but it works very well. And we have another Type 9 who has joined the pack. As you can see, we are very tightly packed with each other, and there's a 4th Type 9 actually coming. Wow, this is going to be going very fast. We are so tightly packed because what we want to do is we want to make sure that when we do dump our samples, they all get dropped pretty tightly packed. Here they are. Like this is like a cluster of samples that have been dropped. Look at how ugly they look, by the way. Reason being, so that the collector limpets of the cutter can pick them up speedily without delay, so that a single ship is sufficient for collecting and gathering purpose. In practice, when we're doing this seriously rather than completely casually, we will have 2 transporter ships. We will have one transporter ship that's here on station, and then the other transporter ship that is actually coming and going from this group of Type 9s. That kind of maximizes the efficiency because you always have someone gathering and you always have someone delivering at the same time. Now, the cutter that is delivering actually does have quite a bit of corrosion resistance on the ship itself, but is effectively overloading that corrosion resistance even beyond what is possible by corrosion-resistant cargo racks alone. That's tricky and can be dangerous. In fact, there's some reasonable limit as to how much you can overload a transport cutter. And typically what we suggest, unless you really know what you're doing, is to not put more than 200 or 250 samples at any given one point in time on your cutter. Otherwise, you run the risk of like blowing up or getting destroyed by too much corrosion. So don't do that. 07 Santiago, 07 Daniel. Again, we're just chilling. And I was mentioning we're kind of flip-flopping between the Thargoid War spreadsheet that we're using as a reference for our sample strength calculations and the actual gathering of samples that we're doing live in game at this point in time. Overall, the goal for this week has already been completed. Like all but 3 of the alerts have been cleared, with the remaining 7 being in the inner 10, which would round up again to a total of 10 if there are no new alerts. But no new alerts are predicted, again, unless Frontier Developments decides to do things that are not in the core logic of the game. And that would allow us to clear all systems in one go next week, as we have enough samples gathered now to effectively do that. And I'm damping more samples in a second when switching back to the game. So now you'll see that one of our Type 9s is gone. And by gone, I mean they self-destructed to fast travel back to their carriers. Again, we have more money than we can possibly even think what to do with, thanks to Spire side activities. So we don't mind just paying for a rebuy instead of having to manually slow boat our boats back to carriers. These ships do not carry the Type 9s do not carry samples. The Type 9s only exist to do this research activity here. Oops. Now, I haven't not timed how many samples per hour we do with this method, but I do know that I finished my research inputs in less than an hour, and that's just for one ship. Something like, what, 500 and change? Like 528, yeah, 528 limpets. Considering a few samples do not come back healthy, let's call them 500. It's 500 samples an hour for one ship, but as you can see, we have 4 T9s researching samples at any given point in time. So that's probably about 2,000 samples per hour, which is a lot for a wing. Trust me, it is a lot. Now, it's not exactly, as I said, like peak gameplay, but it is chill and relaxing thing to kind of do in a wing with a bunch of friends. It's also like has the kind of inherent satisfaction of like the tremendous progress impact that doing this has on the game. 07 Commander Z Azevedo, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Commander Claudie Bertrand said, 07, I have a Python for harvesting with research. Can I help or better do by myself? Wing sampling is more effective than solo sampling for sure. So if you want to tag along and bring another ship with research limpets, by all means be our guest. I can tell you Type 9s are incredibly more effective at that than Pythons. And by the way, these ships are entirely unengineered. Like, I'll show you my right panel in a second. Like, there's not a single engineering piece, zero. So there's no engineering whatsoever on the ship. So, and now I kind of like, Had to go back on target. Not sure I did target the right one. That's good. You don't want to target the wrong one because then you kind of waste a batch of limpets, which is not the end of the world. It's kind of annoying. So now I have 15, which is basically a maximum I can carry without getting corrosion resistance, and I will just abandon them, which shows like them being dropped by my cargo hatch in a moment. There we go. And then look at them go. Go join this. That's a freaking constellation. I think our cutter is doing a delivery run, and our second cutter isn't here yet. What is that thing? Oh, it's just remnants of scouts and stuff. Or no, that's remnants of a T9 that kind of self-destructed the fast travel. Look at this. Look at like the number of samples are just waiting for collection right there. All right. Someone kind of probably realized that their Type 9 is upside down, so they're kind of reorienting their Type 9. Or just highly confused. One of the other. Alright, let's see what else we got. I also know I turn my thrusters off just to avoid, you know, moving accidentally and kind of like messing things up. You don't need to move on this ship whatsoever. Alright, limpets are coming in, back in. And limpets are going back out. Now, I did mention that these Type 9s are completely unengineered for this exercise, and it is true, you don't need to engineer them at all. The cutter, on the flip side, is engineered. Now, the cutter needs some slightly more refined build to be able to do what it does well, as it needs some like level of shield resistance to tank the scouts, and it needs weapons. It needs to also shoot down the unnecessary or additional scouts. And ideally needs thrusters to be able to evade interdictions or hyperdictions that inevitably happen around this zone. So you need some level of engineering on the delivery ship, but pretty much none on the ships that are doing the actual gathering. Pi is here in the instance, and we have added him. Hey Aaron, good to see you. Like, we miss you in Elite. Hope you're gonna rejoin us at some point. Like, and don't take this gameplay as the most engaging peak gameplay that will bring you back, because it isn't. It's just sampling and chill with friends. And maybe the reason not so easy for an English native speaker to pronounce. Well, I'm actually not an English native speaker. That's what helps. I'm actually an Italian native speaker, having grown up in Italy and then having moved to the US some 15 years ago, over 15 years ago now. Yeah, long time. Can you just keep the one scout being sampled for the whole time? Yes, absolutely. In fact, you want to. That is exactly what we're kind of doing here. Like, we're sampling the same scout over and over and over again, but somehow now it went far enough that I can't lock it. Again, I have no engineering on my sensor, so it's kind of like my sensor are a little confused. But as soon as I get back in range, I will target it again, and I will fire my research limpets at it. In the meanwhile, I'm going to drop another 8 containers. Now, it looks like someone is collecting at this point in time, because it looks like those things are moving. So I think we have our cutter back, it'd be my guess. Or something equivalent. Yeah, there you go. Friendly cutter has returned. No, it's a different one. So we do have 2 cutters coming and going. Again, I can't target scout. I'll actually tell my teammate. Scout. 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 Too far from T9s. Let's see if we can pull it back. I think someone else must be down there, because otherwise it doesn't really explain why. Oh yeah, it is someone else. It's down there. Who is it? There's a T9 down there all the way. I have no idea who that is, though. T9 at the bottom. Drag. Scout. Away. Come back. Let's see if I can bring it back. Yeah, we're in the Xenostrike Force PG. Xeno Strike Force Product Group. Should be auto accept. And we are in system CFA sector XO-AB2. Like once you get there, it's like pretty obvious where we are. Yeah, neighbor. Hey, European. Fellow original European. European of origin, American of adoption. As in, not adoption, but you get what I mean. Scout is still not here. Are they coming back with a scout? Scout, come back. Right now we have two. Both cutters are back here. But they... Oh, I think the T9 is finally coming back. Kind of realized that there's... Oh. I also don't know why they're firing that humongous beams. Like, of these two, at least one is a regenerator, I think. The one at the bottom right. You can see the green veins, sort of. You can see them if you know what you're looking at. The other one, I don't know what the other one is, but the other one is about to die. So the other one died. Now, I think that's a regenerator, so I don't know why they kept that one alive, but I guess that's the one we're sampling. No, so you don't want to sample regenerators or insiders because they tend to actually move around a lot. So if you have a choice of which one to keep alive, you want to keep alive a berserker or a marauder, not an insider or regenerator. Of course, ask away. Like, that's what we're here. Like, it's sample and shell. So Jerry's saying he has a interceptor that keeps dropping in. Well, you just move away. You move 15-20 kilometers away, and the interceptor is just gonna sit around over there and do nothing. And at that point, you can just like focus your attention on the scout. If you move away from the interceptor, after a little while, scouts will spawn around you, and then you can kill the ones that you don't need and just keep the one alive like we're doing right now and keep sampling away non-stop like we're doing. And then someone asking, when an alert system is free of Thargoids, does that mean it will no longer be invaded and controlled by them? Yes, if you defend an alert, it's called defending. If you defend an alert, then the system will go back to human controlled at the end of the cycle. And furthermore has also a few weeks of cooldown before it can be alerted again. The cycle goes alert, and then from alert, you either progress directly to controlled if the system is uninhabited, or if the system is inhabited, that is, it actually has ports that you can dock at, then you'll go through a process of invasion. You can still defend an invasion, and if you successfully defend an invasion, it will then go back to recovery, where you're basically repairing the ports that have been damaged in the process of the invasion. Good morning, Safi Miss. I think I answered Blogwhat's question about why sampling is so important. That is, it is the way of getting the most war progress, like, of any activity in the game. Like, just to give you how impactful sampling is compared to everything else. So killing a single Orpheus interceptor in an alert system, which, by the way, takes quite a while, because like you gotta go into the system, you gotta scan non-human signal sources, you gotta find a non-signal sources class 4 that actually has an Orpheus, you gotta drop in, go all the way to the signal sources, drop in, and then actually kill the Orpheus. Probably go to rearm, because you're gonna take a majority of your ammo to do that if you're using AXMRs. And so it's gonna take somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes to kill an Orpheus if you're lucky, and that gives you the equivalent of 3 samples. Free. An Orpheus kill in an alert system is worth 3 samples. Free. Now just look at the number that we're pulling in here. We're doing I am personally doing like over 500 an hour, right? So it doesn't even remotely compare. Like it's not that combat is slightly less effective. It's like night and day. Like sampling is just so much more effective than combat for clearing alerts, for taking over occupied systems, for anything in the war, really, which is annoying. As I've mentioned, I would love to see the developer rebalance combat activities towards war activities towards combat, but it's not happening. So for now, this is what we got. And I think they killed the scout, the regenerator I was using correctly, because you do want to kill like regenerators at some point, and instead use berserkers or, and I think that's a berserker, just looking by the little animation it just did. So I've answered the first question. I think you had another question. That's Azevedo, which is, so the 20 or so systems that went alert around Oya will no longer be invaded, right? So, I mean, I'll show you exactly what's going to happen, assuming that there's no additional progress in some of these things. So, the alerts that have gone to 100%, so everything up to and including HIP 10778, these will go to cleared. It will go back to human control, essentially. The alerts that are not cleared, let's assume for a moment all three aren't cleared. I actually think we will clear C2-16, but let's assume for a moment that we won't. These three alerts will go straight to controlled. Because these are unpopulated, so there's no invasion to be done, they will go straight to green controlled, Thargoid controlled. So there's no invasions around Oya next week, 0. All the systems that could have been invaded, like these three, which are actually were populated, then the Raven alerts were cleared, so they will not spawn invasions. Now going back to this wonderful activity here, let's fire our research limpets again. And let's dump the tissue samples so that our gatherers can pick them up. Carl is saying that he's killing Orphuses in one of the few remaining alerts. I mean, look, every little bit helps, right? So even if you do kill your Orphus and you get your 3 samples in, that's 3 more samples equivalent worth of contribution that we would not have had otherwise. So if that's the activity you enjoy, that's what you should do. You should just know that the contribution to the progression of the system is effectively negligible compared to sampling, like especially wing sampling, the kind of version that we're doing right now in this little live stream. It's a lot more fun though. Like this obviously gets incredibly boring after a little while. But again, if you're like just chilling and chatting away and doing other things at the same time, then it's different. Like, it's one of those activities that you kind of put Netflix on the side and just watch whatever your favorite show is. There we go. Alright, all limpets are out. I think limpets are coming back. Yep. Firing them away again. Like the range of research limpets is 2 kilometers, so the scout has to be within 2 kilometers, which, again, berserkers and marauders pretty much always do remain within that range, so makes it supremely easy. Again, for those who maybe have just connected, I'll show you the configuration here. We have 3 Type 9s with Research Limpets controller. Their exclusive job is to gather samples. And then we have 2 cutters with collector limpets that are collecting the disproportionate amount of samples that are being dumped by the Type 9s as they collect them. Like the cutters will then proceed to take the samples back to the carriers that we're using for staging and collecting those samples for dedicated systems. They also act as tanks, and they also act as firing upon additional undesired scout. Like that's like Insider, you can tell by the pink cloud, and that was just destroyed because we don't need it here. We just want our single Berserker or Marauder. Daniel is asking if nanite torpedoes hurt the exposed heat core. The answer to that is no, they do not. They only affect the vents, the Titan vents. We've tried them against a lot of other things. They absolutely do nothing against anything but the vents of the Titan. Carl is saying he wants to test his XMC Conda. Why not? XMC Condas are funny. Condas with 6 plasma chargers are even more funny, especially at the Spire sites. I am a big fan of the plasma Conda for Spires. It's just so OP, especially if you bring a wing of 3 or 4. It's like you can destroy Orphuses as they spawn before they even shield up out of the black clouds. It's kind of really remarkable. Safi Miss calls me a legal alien. I've been a legal alien for quite a while. Now I'm a citizen of the US in addition to a citizen of my home country in Europe. So I am a dual citizen, but I have been alien, resident alien for a long time. Legal one, unfortunately. And again, if you have questions on anything else about the war, about the sampling, about the builds, about killing Hydras and Eagles, or whatever you fancy, very happy to answer them. I will also do new build clinic. I think the live stream we did a while back, where we basically had people submit their builds and have a look at them and provide suggestions, seem to be pretty well received, and people are asking for another one of those, so we'll probably do another build clinic live stream in the next few weeks. All live streams will probably be limited in the next few weeks, as I'm actually traveling internationally for the next couple of weeks, so we'll do what we can do with resources that we have while on the road, which are not exactly the same as having a fully fledged desktop PC to do things with. All right. Let's see what we got here. Like the tanking ship will generally use turrets. Turrets allow you to shoot at most angles without actually having to move your ship, which is highly desirable for ships that don't really want to move, like we're doing here. We're also kind of pretty close to the star, as we tend to do this so that we minimize the travel time between the drop point and where we're actually doing the sampling, which is why we are pretty close to the main star. Makes us pretty hot, but it doesn't matter. Like being hot or being cold, and this setup is irrelevant. There's like a single scout alive, and that scout is targeting like a separate dedicated tank ship. So, and yeah, you should save your ammo if you're not actively firing at the Titan vent with nanite torpedoes. There's really no point in using it against anything else. What I will say is you can actually synthesize nanite torpedo ammo, which in a pinch can be handy. Like what I personally found is that I tend to run out of nanite torpedoes at the same time I run out of AX missiles, and the overall synthesis of all that stuff is pretty much cost prohibitive in terms of materials. So at that point I just fast travel back to my carrier. But if you decided for whatever reason to make sort of an extended stay at the Titan, then you can certainly synthesize ammunition, and then that will keep you going for a long time, actually. Especially if you're using the Mamba, which uses the large version of a torpedo, which has twice as much ammo as the medium one that the crate usually uses. There we go. All the research limpets are out, and we have another 14 to drop for our cutters to pick up. Again, even if your thrusters are off and you can't really turn, like you can use external camera to look around. Now, the cutters are doing something that I don't know if I generally advise to do. The cutters are having both cutters use collector limpets. Personally, I don't know. I feel collector tends to fight each other and find it annoying. See, for example, in that case, both collector limpets went for the same limpet. Canister, not limpet, sorry, tissue canister, but again, it's not the end of the world. Right? Let's see if we can do a sort of like, after we dump this load, go and have a quick look at the scout itself proper. Now that it's back in range, I'm gonna just get all these research limpets going at it. I don't think you actually see all the research limpets that are going at it because it's like a disproportionately humongous number. Like, this is just the ones that are trying to attach at any given point in time. Once they are attached, you don't see them anymore until they come back. But I want to bet the scout has something like 40 or 50 research limpets attached to it at this very moment. Like, and these are coming back now. And we're firing them again. No, we started streaming, I don't know, 15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, and we've already fired half of our limpet. So, I mean, I said I could do like 500 of these an hour. Yeah, this can actually do a lot more than that. Dumping these 6 as well. Alex showed up on my stream because I wasn't in Discord audio, so I'm like, probably have no idea what the hell I'm doing. Mediocre went over 200 samples in cargo. Oh, okay, so you were starting as he was finishing. Oh, that makes total sense. Yeah, and I was saying earlier that being at over 200 samples in a transport ship is kind of borderline dangerous. You should only do it if you really know what you're doing. You're saying the plasma conda, do you prefer Cytos combos or TV beams? I tried both. You prefer with TV beams. I mean, it's really a personal preference, I want to say. Like the TV beams allows you to tag targets from further away, which if you're trying to just get bonds and have multiple wings in multiple places in the instance, is handy. But if you have a smaller group and you're kind of going for specific targets one at a time, Cytos scramblers allow you to essentially work and whittle down the shield while you're holding the plasmas charged. So that, let's say you have 10% left on the shield of the Orphers, right? 4 plasma condas with Cytos will obliterate that 10% in like 2 seconds. And then, as the shield drops, you release your plasmas and the Orphers dies. Beams don't do it that fast, right? Beams, you're kind of sitting there while the beams do their thing on the shield, and it's kind of annoying. So, again, if I am doing it in a bit more of a focused group, I prefer Cytos to beams. Also, I don't know how you engineer your Cytos. I hope you engineer them for long range, oversized. Inertial impact works as well. Counterintuitively, because you're like, oh, I'm putting kinetic on a weapon that's thermal, that should be bad for shields. Well, the fact is, inertial impact gives such a humongous damage bonus that even though it converts a portion of the damage to kinetic, net it is actually still beneficial compared to oversized on Cytos, although by a small margin. And the jitter that initial impact introduced I find annoying, so I generally just use oversized. But you do need to have long range. If you don't have long range on the Cytos, those things are going to do no damage whatsoever. But long range Cytos just annihilate shields like they were sort of large beams in a small slot. Like, it's kind of remarkable. They also chew up so much capacitor energy in doing that. But how am I not getting attacked by targets right now? Well, they heard that I killed one of their Hydras in an eagle, and they decided to stay away. No jokes aside. Someone else is tanking them. Like, the cutter has aggroed the scout that we're sampling. And since the cutter is basically keeping aggro the scout, and I'm not attacking the scout or otherwise barring it, it is it's just fighting essentially the cutter instead of barring any of us. I will eventually get attention by the new spawns primary, which is like why I'm at 80% hollow and not at 100. Like, now I'm actually trying to see if I can put a research repair input on myself. And I need to wait for some stuff to kind of finish coming in, I think. Okay, and now I can actually repair myself. And then go back on target, and then note how I like use hotkeys to target the closest hostile. I also use hotkeys to target my wingmates whenever I need to. Like, this would be I cannot target mediocre because he's not actually in the instance, but I can target Alex and Shadow very, very quickly, or back to hostile. So having hotkeys for target selection is something I highly recommend. You're welcome, Eros. Yeah, the Cytoplasma Conda, again, there's something about things that work solo versus things that work in a wing, right? You might say, two Cytos on the Conda don't do that much shield damage. Yeah, but try 16. Right? You'll see like Cytos just utterly obliterating shields. Again, they're not really meant as a main weapon, right? They're meant as the best use of the small slots that the Conda has, right? In a Spire configuration. It's great for finishing off shields that have already been damaged. But yeah, they're not a primary weapon. They're like a sidearm. They're a sidearm of the Plasma Conda, essentially. Yeah, I mean, this sample, like, it's a very massive scout. Like, it's given us like some 3,000 tons, 3,000 tons of samples. You'd think there's probably more samples than there is scout. I don't know what the mass of a scout is, but it's probably not more than 300 or 400 tons. And we definitely got more tons of samples than the mass of a scout at this point, like, guaranteed. Right, Shadow is back. Let's see. Shadow is getting shot. In XSF, we have a convention with regards to uniform that we ask people to maintain for our official operation. This is not an official operation. This is just a casual, let's get some samples thing. So, like, for example, Shadow, being a very good commander, has a uniform T9, which has a proper code for his ship and a proper color of a ship. Me, being an awful human being, instead, I totally don't. I have this just random colorful T9, which we would not allow in our official operations. But, you know, if we're just sitting here still shooting research limpets at a scout, I guess doesn't matter all that much. Alright, more like samples that I've dumped. See, like, down here how many research limpets we have. Like, it kind of refreshes so quick you can't even scout out. Look at the number of tissue samples just free filling waiting to be collected. Kind of insane. Unfortunately, my squadron, I'm the only one with a Plasma Conda. I've never had the opportunity to experience being in a Plasma Conda fleet. Well, I'm going to link you what that experience looks like, because I personally think that it's kind of pretty remarkable. Well, you tell me what you think after you can have a look. So this, which I'm just linking, is the experience of being in a Plasma Conda fleet. We also had the Yamix as a guest star. He is not in a Plasma Conda. He has Conda just with AXMRs, mostly unengineered as I understand it, which she does actually pretty fine with, I will say, considering that it's not exactly an ideal build. What is better, Plasma Conda or Shard Conda? Very good question. They serve very different roles, is the answer. At Spires, you want the Plasma Conda. At Spires, you want the Plasma Conda because Plasma Chargers are just ideal against hull. They do the most hull damage of any AX weapon, so they're almost perfect for that purpose. And they also don't require heat sinks to use on a sustained basis. Like if you charge and let you discharge and charge again, which is how you should use chargers, you're not gonna overheat. Shards, mod shards specifically, run very hot. So you need to use heat sinks to fire them to avoid completely cooking your ship, unless you fire very, very, very slow. Which you can, but then you're kind of murdering your DPS, and then what's the point of using mod shards in the first place? You might as well use regular shards at that point in time, which don't run that hot, or they don't do that much damage, and have an annoying spread and like comparably crappy range. So the Plasma Conda is really the best build for Spires in my view. Like, it's just so freaking efficient. The Shard Conda, some people first of all call it a meme build, for a reason that we're going to get to in a moment. What the Shard Conda excels at is it excels at gibbing Cyclops. So if all you're fighting is like a fleet of Cyclops, like often is the case at ground combat zones, and you have a PRT to repair locally, and rearm locally, then the Shard Conda is great. The Shard Conda really struggles the moment a Basilisk shows up on site, or worse, a Dusa or Hydra. Then the Shard Conda really has a hard time, which is why people call it a meme build, because there's a bunch of people who aren't really experienced at AX who build a Shard Conda. They go around, hey, I murder Clops, boom, bam, look at these explosions, and then the Basilisks show up, and then they suddenly are kind of like Quiver Canopy blown, turning tail and running, and saying, oh, this is too hard. Like, but the problem isn't the build. The problem is, again, the fact that we have inexperienced people using Shard Condas, which makes it kind of a bit of a meme build. But in capable hands, like, let me show you what a Shard Conda can do. The short, and note it's a short, so it's less than a minute long. But I'm linking right now is me getting hyperdicted in a Shard Conda. And I'll let you see what happens in the video that I just linked. And then we continue our research exercise. Now we also are over our limit, so we're gonna double time to drop them. There we go. Yamix, yes, Yamix does certainly use colorful language. In fact, I think it is the only video on my channel that got flagged by YouTube for not being fully advertiser friendly, because Yamix language wasn't exactly PG-13. But that's okay. Like, that's his style, and we love him for what he does and what he is. Looks like I'm going back to Guardian Space then. I unlocked medium shard cannons, lol. I mean, yeah, the old shards aren't that great, honestly. Like, they sort of had a role back in the day for speedrunning specifically, but they have effectively been made obsolete by mod shards. Like, the thing with mod shards is they're a lot more expensive in terms of materials, which makes them annoying. But I as far as general purpose AX use is concerned, they're probably the best weapons in the game. Like, they're like very effective against all interceptor variants. They do pretty well against hearts, and actually very well against hearts, and reasonably well against exertion of hearts. They can kill scouts at a reasonable range. They have good ammo, and I mean, if you stagger them, you can also probably manage them reasonably decently from a heat spike perspective. So they're just amazing. They're like probably the best weapon in the game for general purpose use. So like, for instance, if you say, let's go to a combat zone, which can throw up a little bit of everything, can throw up Cyclops, it has Hydras at the end, it's got a bunch of scouts, mod charts are a weapon of choice. Like when we did kind of a test where we tried to see how quickly we could finish a very high CZ at the station in a single wing of so-called decent pilots, we all brought mod charts. Like we had like three crates and one Anaconda with mod charts in the wing we ran. We didn't win, by the way. Another wing of fellow commanders won that little competition. They did incredibly well. We were all kind of relatively staggered, and I think we all finished in somewhere between 55 minutes and an hour and 5, but even then there's quite a bit of a difference. I mean, yeah, makes you know, the thing about content creators and streamers, and like there's different styles and there's different personal approaches to the game and whatnot. I think some streamers aim to entertain, and some streamers aim to inform. I think I'm probably more in the latter category. My streams are generally meant towards the trying to inform rather than trying to entertain. Like, I don't know if someone else finds me entertaining, but I personally don't see myself as like a master entertainer. But I do hopefully see myself as someone who's been able to pass on some pretty good knowledge of the game, either in the form of builds, in the form of tactics, in the form of like mechanics information or explanation of how weapons work, or some specific approaches to like sabotaging spires or running spire sites for Orpheus farming, which is the video I just produced, which will go live in the Yamix new video that is coming up. How many shards do you have in that Kona? 6. Yeah, that Kona has 6 shards with basic ammo. It doesn't even have premium ammo, to give you an idea of how insane those weapons are. Like, and yes, it does look easy. It's not actually that easy. Like, you kind of need to kind of have an idea what you're doing, but it is kind of easy. And trying to get out 8 out of 8 vents, yeah, it's not easy in the crate, I have to say. At least it's not easy for me. Maybe better pilots than me, and there's plenty, do so more reliably. I can't do so reliably on the crate. I think my success ratio in the crate of getting 848 is around 30%. And the Mamba is a very different story. The Mamba is it's incredibly easier. Like, my success ratio of getting 848 in the Mamba is probably 80 to 90%. So over twice as much as that in the crate. And Toyota's here. Hey, Toyota. Yes. Fun, engaging activity, exactly. But very productive as far as the war effort is concerned. Thanks for joining. Like, you should join us in game. Like, come bring a T9. These are completely unengineered T9s. Just buy one at Shinde's and come sample along and help the war effort. Oh, thank you, Parker. That's actually, I gotta do a heart thingy. I'm not sure I've done it on your comment or somewhere, but I find that comment really nice. Thank you. The triple kill is awesome. Yeah, I mean, look, the plasma conduct can do good things as well. Like the equivalent of a Plasma Conda, and that's because we don't have 3 of them, is this one. This is a Plasma Conda getting interdicted by 2 Glaze that also don't last long. How many limps do I have in this hold, Commander? Mediocre is asking me. I have 145 left. I am probably a slow researcher, sorry. A chatterbox chatting away, talking to folks instead of kind of doing my duty here. I should be sampling faster. You're right. I have a total of 532 and I have 532 I think, and I have 132 left. And yeah, like Yamik certainly does videos for multiple games, whereas I have a family with 3 little children. The time I have is like something over weekends and something at night after they go to sleep, and I'm not busy with my real life work. And all I do pretty much is Elite Dangerous. And even, I don't know, even if I, like, I don't know, this is just what I do. I will, Commander Mediocre. Commander Mediocre is leading this operation, and he's probably our biggest expert, if not the entire game's biggest expert, I want to say, as far as wing sampling is concerned. Like, he devised these builds, he devised this methodology, he perfected it to like a science. Like, so everything you see me doing here, I'm doing because Mediocre taught me how to do it. Let the record state that. 07 Godless Norwegian. 07 Kai Bernis. If we've given up on Oya, I mean, the short answer is yes, right? We are not even close to getting half a heart. And more importantly, we found that sampling efforts have managed to get all alerts that mattered to 100%. So next week we will have a shot save additional FDEB creative interventions, let's call them that. We'll have a shot at clearing all the remaining systems. And by the way, we already gathered pretty much all the samples to do that. So all we need to do is hit the spires and finish gathering the samples that we need, which I'm pulling up the relevant screen. I got the wrong one. Pulling up the relevant screen. There you go. This one. Like the samples for last week were almost entirely gathered. Like, we have some Bayabozo and some XOA B2, which are the ones we're gathering now to fill up. But at the rate we're going now with these samples, this one is going to complete soon. And this one will be the kind of balanced one that we kind of need to top up. And then there's 2 more, presumably, if we don't clear these 2, which we probably won't, because look at the sample strength of these. Like, people are like, here's the thing about understanding the mechanics. Like, people are like, oh, it's so cool. Like, we cleared so many, like, alerts. Look at the sum total of these. I don't know, how many did I select? Like, the vast majority of them. Like, it adds up to 9,400 samples. 9,400 samples for this entire block of alerts. 9,400. Now, look at clearing this one and this one. 44,000 or even 70,000. Clearing one of the inner alerts is like 7 times all the outer 24 combined. So that's the thing that people are kind of missing. Yes, we got all the outer alerts, but that was damn easy. Like, the hard work is in the inner ones. And that's where it kind of gets really, really tricky. Now, going back to sampling, otherwise Commander Mediocre is going to call me out again, saying that I'm not kind of like getting my limpets out again. So let's do it. And dumping these. There we go. Yeah, but that life clear, I think you know something of that. And then if we, Barbecue is asking if we already have a carrier picking up samples. Yes, I think all the slots are allocated, but I know you have a carrier deployed for by a Bozo, right? Am I mistaken? So that carrier, I think, should stay in place. In fact, if you don't mind checking your buy order and refreshing it if needed, that would also be great. And then you're saying that you have... Oh, Sam was saying that you have 11 modified medium shard cannons. Wow. Okay, that's even more than I have. I think I have 8. And then you're gonna buy 11 modified Guardsnet plasma charges instead. Ah, man, I don't think you're ever gonna need more than 6. I mean, be my guest, but even with the experimental stabilizer, the most you can put on any given one ship is 6. So I don't know why you would ever need 11, but again, if you want to go farm 11 because you have reasons, go for it. Yeah. Doing core runs, getting 2 millions per run, no arcs, no joy. I mean, here's the thing, and we had this discussion, and I was talking about it a little bit in the video that I published yesterday about the war council that we held on Friday with the Defense Council of Humanity. Taking down Oya requires, at this level of damage resistance, which is very high, destroying no fewer than 22,000 cores, thermal cores, like the equivalent of 100% damage on 22,000 cores. The maximum that a single well-run instance that does not bug out can do is 15 an hour. So realistically, you would need something like 20 instances going non-stop 24/7. I mean, someone can do the math. It's probably a smaller number than that, but still, you need the entire community to come together and say, we're going to do this. And what happened on the call on Friday was, like, we said what we realistically could do was Xeno Strike Force, which was probably 500 to 600 cores total in the week we had. The Anti-Xeno Initiative, which is a much bigger group, said that they could do maybe 1,000 or so, maybe a little bit more. But we didn't really get some big commitments from other groups for anything even close to that, let alone greater, or let alone able to fill the gap between the 2,000 or so that we felt we could commit to and the 22,000, so remaining 20,000 that were necessary to be able to go with the strategy of let's hit Oya directly. And as a result, since there wasn't really momentum, like the effort strike Oya directly, and because alerts were being cleared and that was getting momentum, the strike on Oya kind of fizzled out as a result. Everybody refocused. As you can see, even we are here now doing sampling instead of doing direct attacks on Oya. And then this is now our drudgery. Yeah, I mean, I've asked vocally, as you probably saw if you've been following my channel, for a rebalancing of combat activities to be brought in line with sampling. The problem with that rebalancing is that it is so freaking massive. As in, they would need to increase the value of individual orifices in alert system, not by 10 or 20%. They would need to increase it by a factor of 200. I'm not kidding. You heard me correctly. They would need to increase the value of orifices in alert systems by a factor of 200 to make it competitive with what we're doing here, which is tissue sampling. And that's not a small rebalance, as you can imagine, and consequently not one that I see happening anytime soon. But it is reality. Like, short of them kind of rebalancing that way, it's just not even remotely competitive to do anything but this to kind of like affect work progress in a system. Let's see. Sorry to bother you when I can. Where can I get a good build for making money in Spire site? I was in the Axie site but couldn't find one. Yeah, the Axie actually does have in their Discord pinned builds for Spire combat, but I will give you one since you asked and you're here. which is my personal favorite and that we were talking about earlier. Note that this one is meant for pre-advanced Spire side combat. Kind of presumes that you're in a good wing that is actually going for both inbounds and outbounds, and is not afraid of repairing damage done by anti-guardian fields when it does happen. But if you are in that situation, then the Cytoplasma Conda that I just linked to you is just personal opinion, the best ship at hunting Morphuses that you can possibly build. Mediocre just disappeared. Alright. I'm damping more of my things. I'm probably gonna get ridden up by Mediocre for doing this so slowly. But again, I'm trying to also educate watchers as to how this works and explain the overall process, so hopefully there's some community value. Oh, someone reappeared. Oh, an umpire reappeared. That was weird. You also saw this, right? It's not like I've been drinking weird spirits. Like, you're welcome for a build. People, if there thinks that there are still thousands of people playing, well, there are still thousands of people playing, right? I mean, like if you look at how many players passed through the Titan system in the last 24 hours or so, you'll probably see a number in the 3,000 or 4,000 range. So there are thousands of people playing, at least like Titan combat type of gameplay. But even then, it's not enough. Like many people are in open or in large PGs where the core tends to get bugged, because that bug they didn't fix. They fixed the bug that we kind of brought to your attention that said, hey, you can bomb the core at any time and get credits for it, and actually just dump your entire ammo into the core's cap and then do one cycle, and then you'll get bonds for the whole thing. So that they fixed, that they speed run the fixing of that bug. It was the fastest bug I've ever seen fixed in Elite. It was fixed in 3 days. It was fixed before they even acknowledged it in the issue tracker. So it went straight from like confirmed to fixed. It didn't even go for acknowledge. Like, or if it did for like 2 nanoseconds. So that, which was actually favorable to us, bug, they fixed instantly. The bug that instead results in the core getting stuck anytime there's like more than one commander coming or dropping into an instance, or there's like some kind of desync issues of that kind. That is still not something you managed to fix. And the hotfix that they put forward, my hunch is it might have actually resulted in making things worse. Either that, or again, that's pure anecdotal information. Let me take that back. I don't know if it made it worse or better. It did not fix it. That I can state as a fact. 5 billion chicken shit money. You mean the one that I'm holding on to my the event. Okay, how do you, Kai, how so you think? Oh, sorry, there's a discussion around 5 billion. Oh yeah, I mean there's varied feelings. Like it's the debate I think we had online, and I think it's probably kind of done and settled. I mean, some people feel that, you know, things were got-handed in a way that was unfair, and the rules of the game changed in a way that was well beyond suspension of disbelief. And some people felt, you know, Thargoid's doing something unexpected. For once, great. The video I had put out, and again, I've been explaining in the comments, so people have been commenting on my video. I was not upset because they did something that was surprising or unexpected. That candidly didn't bother me at all. In fact, I actually thought it was a good thing, all things considered. What I was upset about was the fact that they had not communicated at all. Like at the time I had made that video, there was no Galnet article. There was no explanation of what was going on. And this would not have been the first time when FDev changed things in the background simulation with no explanation or communication whatsoever. Like they've changed the value of sample strength for systems significantly in the past with no communication. They got handed Spires back to controlled state because from a narrative standpoint, we had reconquered them sooner than they wanted, which by the way ended with the only occasion of carriers being present in a Thargoid occupied system, because that god handing didn't evict the carriers. So we actually had 3 days until the server tick when carriers were in occupied space, which is technically impossible to do. So in a way it was cool, but mostly because it was a bug on top of a god handling, which created a situation that was weird to have interceptors around carriers, which I personally enjoyed for that week. But again, I kind of belabor the point. I think in general, like unexpected things happening, good. However, communication, right? Communication with player base, respect for the player base is important, right? And for those who are basically saying, oh, well, it's a surprise counterattack, there should have not been any communication. Well, maybe, I kind of semi-buy that argument. If they hadn't god-handed things in the past so many times without any communication, then I probably would not have put out that video saying, guys, this is not okay. However, since they had, I felt the need to say something here. And again, I don't know if the sort of Galnet that was published several hours after that video went out had anything to do, or maybe they were planning to kind of publish it all along, and I just maybe jumped the gun and sort of calling them out, and I could have waited another 24 hours maybe. But there was a lot of frustration in the community at that time. So that was like what prompted it all and the story that far. Well, Barbecue Q, like, you should join one of our Spire assaults when we do our next Spire assault, and we'll get you that 5 billion back in no time. Funnily enough, we had no cores getting stuck with a couple of friends yesterday until I did a SOAR run. Immediately stuck. Wow. Yeah, it's kind of very annoying. Oh, I'm getting corroded, so I need to drop samples before I corrode myself to death. We have changed the game. Pray we do not change it further. Yeah, that's absolutely fair, Toyota. Yeah, there's bugs and bugs that we know. Question on where is the improved FSD? I have no idea. Soon, that's the correct answer, I think, Toyota. And then the question everybody's asking, like Kai is also asking, whether the FSD is going to be paired with a new ship. But the answer is nobody knows, and I don't think anybody kind of can really speculate with any kind of partial information that we have. The question if we're going to turn in samples on Far Day, the answer is no. We'll hold on to them until Spires push all those systems to 85%, which is the cap. It's the maximum they can reach with Spires alone. When our target systems reach 85% and consequently don't increase further, that's when we turn in samples. Ezra Pound 07 is saying, is the scout targeting the limpets or the ship? The scout is targeting some ship, I think. But we have a dedicated ship that is tanking out here. At least we should be having it. Yep, there you go. The cutter down here is our tank. Whereas the other T9s up here are the ones that are just using research limpet controllers. And then there's pieces of a T9 that can self-destruct down here. To fast travel back to their carrier. And there we go. Our scout that is getting sampled over and over and over again. That was scout that gave us like 3,000 tons of samples at this point in time. Thank you for that. Alright, dump these as well. And then for those who just joined, maybe I will explain in a little bit what we're doing here once again. I apologize for those who have been following us from the beginning, kind of hear me repeat that, but I think it's kind of helpful. Oh, you're right. Then, I mean, how have you not made more than... I mean, I might have been misreading the chat here. I thought you said you only made 12 billion in all your time in Elite. I'm like, if you're courting sparring sites, you kind of presumably be making some good money there, right? Yeah, you can wait for a ping. But generally, I think we'll get that Spire to 85% sometime between Sunday and Tuesday, is my guess. So that ping will come sometime between Sunday and Tuesday. Again, assuming no additional surprises or crazy things happening. All right, and now we are in the process of like finishing up with like all the research limpets that we're getting. Again, while this final load comes in, I will explain one more time what we're doing here. So what we're doing is wing-based Thargoid scout tissue sampling, which is the most effective activity at incrementing war progress in systems, and this is how all alerts are getting cleared. The way we're doing that is we have 3 Type 9s, which are completely unengineered, by the way, and these have research limpet controllers pretty much only, in addition to 2 large cargo holds for limpets, and they are sampling this single scout over and over and over and over again with multiple limpets at the same time and gathering these samples at an industrial scale. We have 2 cutters that are our transport ships and tanks and escorts effectively that have collector limpets controller that are picking up all these samples that we constantly jettison and abandon. By the way, I don't know, these are not samples, these are limpets that have died here for some reason. I don't know why. That's weird. But let's see where they go to pick up the samples. Oh, no, this is... There you go. This collector limpet just picked up a sample and is taking it back to a cutter, as you can see. And basically what we do here is we use research limpets and universal limpets controller to just kind of like sample away non-stop until we're completely out of ammo. And then the tissue samples that we gather, we abandon and dump them so that the cutters can pick them up. And this just results in, and here's a sample. Oh, there you go, getting dropped out. And there they go, the cutters, as you can see, the cutter limpets just pick them up, and in no time they go into the cutter holds. And then when the cutter has somewhere between 200 and 250, it will transport them back to a carrier, which is where we're storing them. And now I'm entirely out of ammo, so I'm gonna restart my thruster so I don't kind of like create debris field right where we're sampling. And then when I've gotten sufficient distance, which I'm trying to flight assist off so I cannot like explode without stopping, I travel back to my carrier, which is by far the fastest way to get there. 07 DL0, thanks for joining us. You're saying the money is low with 4 hours a day. Maybe, but like our rank when we were kind of like in the live stream that I just linked, we made almost 2 billion in an hour. So again, 12 billion for your entire career when you're kind of doing 4 hours a day, 2 days a week. I think you can probably do better money than that. It's mediocre. I was trying not to litter your formation. I got out of formation to not litter your formation. So I request being excused for my exiting of formation. Well, thanks for joining us, Daniel. I'm probably gonna go for one more sample and chill, and then call it an evening after I run out of limpets again, which is gonna take probably... How long have we been chatting for now? Let's see. We have been chatting for... There's no obvious way. An hour, 18 minutes. Yeah, it'll take an hour or so. Like, we'll be on for that, and then we'll call it a night. Again, we're just here to chat about the game, the war, AX combat, sampling, whatever you want. Whatever is on your minds. I am restocking my limpets, and then I'm going to be hopping back into our target system. Now the thing about this unengineered Type 9 is that it cannot fight and it cannot escape hyperdictions and interdictions. So the only realistic way to survive those fights, other than hoping that you don't roll the unlucky dice, and see if I can go to an alert instead of an unoccupied one, which might result in fewer chance of getting hyperdicted. We'll see. Is to manual log, which is lame, but I mean, the alternative is to just keep getting destroyed until you're gonna roll a non-high interdiction. Or to engineer the ship, which I don't want to do. So, like... Oh, now that I think about it, I do have an engineer type. Nah, I could put the drives on here. Give me a bit more survivability, but I'm still incredibly slow. I don't know. Maybe we'll keep it as it is for now. Yeah, it does depend a lot on the group. Like, good groups at Spires are crazy good money. Like, not so good group at Spires are painful. Just call it that. Alright, this is a classic example when I kind of have to manual log. Oh, okay. 24 billion is already somewhat more reasonable. Like, let's say like 12 million, like, based on everything you do, is like, really not a lot. I mean, the thing about combat and ranks in the game overall is like, I don't think ranks in this game have anything to do with skill. They have somewhat to do with experience, but it's more on the doing the same thing over and over and over and over again for like a gazillion times until you score enough experience points to get to whatever rank you're aiming for. Which is why, personally, I haven't cared for elite ranks, like, ever. I did eventually get triple elite, but, like, you know, I've been playing since beta, and I got triple elite 2 weeks ago. So, it's like, where am I supposed to be going? Oh, here, yes. Alright. What I did grind was some of the on-foot ranks. Not because I care about grinding the on-foot ranks, but because they give you pieces of pretty colorful and pretty loadouts. So now I have a silver dominator. Well, didn't show it. I have a silver dominator, a blue Artemis, some pretty cool outfits that are granted by the on-foot ranks, which I liked, and I was like, okay, I'll do this for the colorful in-game suits. Yeah, getting at least one of the elites is really important because, yeah, you really want to be able to... get to Shinrada Desra. It's like a game changer. I mean, you're getting basically access to all modules in one station. Like, it's just so convenient. I think there's a discount too. I don't know. I think there's a discount at Shindes. I may be wrong. Try in all different channels. See if someone eventually picks me up. I do need a wing invite to be able to drop in the same instance, otherwise I have no idea where they are. They're somewhere in the middle of like empty space. There we go. So I saw, well, something glitched over my screen. Ah, there we are. Alex. Invite accepted. Now I can kind of go full speed. And engage Wingman Navlock, which should drop me practically instantly there. Actually, no, because he's not there. So, never mind. Now Alex got to interdict it as part of the process. See if Wingman Navlock on mediocre. I think is I don't actually know who is in the instance, so I can't quite say like who I'm even supposed to kind of navlock. Well, this worked, so kind of there we go. All right, let's get us back in formation. There they are. The Type 9s. We might as well start sampling because why not? There we go, nice and cozy. No, Shadow, you're not coming. There's no space for you. Sorry. Well, you kind of still managed to come somehow and be very nice and cozy too. Wow, this is like a real kind of like pile of T9s quite properly, with the 2 cutters down below. Nice. I should really get the new uniform for the ship. Alright, so everything is back in position as to how I think we want it. So who's ready for the Eagle Titan skin for Oya? I don't think it's going to be an Eagle Titan skin. And and all the information I have doesn't point to an Eagle skin, I wish. But yeah, I don't think that's going to be. Ship is built, it'll live on my carrier, right next to a E-rated T6. Nice, Toyota. Cool. My carrier also tends to be quite close to problematic things in the universe, so it'll take you fun places if you have a definition of fun which is close to mine, which means usually dealing with troublesome things. Oh, I should open the cargo hatch. Now I was like, why are they not kind of dropping me samples? Well, because my hatch is not open was the answer. Alright. Oh, you all go now. And let's dump these. Okay. What do I think the Oya skin will be? I think I actually know that answer. Somebody actually looked up some information and actually had that answer. So we had what? We had Chieftain, and then we had Crate or Conda. It's the other one. If we got the Crate already, then it's a Conda. If we got the Conda already, then it's a Crate. It's like. If you remember, refueling meat fight was a real risk if you were concerned about, so that was a response. So that's funny. Yeah. I can dust off my old fuel red ship when I ran into those boys. Yeah, I mean, with the really tiny ships, fuel capacity is a real concern. It's those fights can be pretty long, and on such small fuel tanks, you can actually run out of fuel. Like, yeah, no, it's not an Eagle skin. I don't think the Eagle. I mean, first of all the ship kits are reskins of existing Thargoid ones, and the Eagle is not among the ships that has a Thargoid ship kit. So exceptionally unlikely. Oh, Cobra. So Well, thanks for that, Kronos, by the way. So, Chief and the next one is going to be either Crate or Anaconda. I don't remember which one, but it's one of those two. If the information I have is correct. All right, need to kind of drop limpets again. Alright, and dumping tissue samples. Again, I do this so the cutters that are in the instance with us can actually collect them and transport them to carriers. They're kind of coming and going. Base building as a rumored feature. You want to have first dibs on a system. Well, I don't know that. I mean, the information we had about that had to do with buying land plots. So I don't know that. I mean, again, I have no idea how exactly it's going to be implemented, but if it is like anything that what we currently have kind of hints at and looks like, you kind of should be able to buy plots for credits. And I don't think that it's like something that you need to claim a system for or like, but again, it's way too early to kind of speculate with any degree of credibility on any of that stuff. Oh wow. Again, for those who have tuned in relatively recently, we're doing a live stream and chill, or sampling and chill live stream, where we are gathering samples for the ore effort while chilling and chatting away. So if you're not already subscribed, you can subscribe and start chatting immediately. There's no delay. Anyone who is subscribed can join the conversation. And again, feel free to ask about anything AX related, game related, Thargoid war related, or that's on your mind. By the way, DJ saw you got triple E today. Congratulations on that. Toyota and Safi confirming that there is a discount indeed at Shindes, which I suspected but didn't remember for a fact. By the way, I think we should also be approaching a point where we have actually filled up the carrier we need to fill up. Let's see. Yeah, no, I haven't seen any deep space building. I've only seen planet-based stuff. And again, based on what people sent me, so that's kind of information that you should rely upon with a big grain of salt. Got a hint preventing me from rage quit trying to reach a Titan. Well, I probably do, but I need a bit more information regarding what's causing you to rage while trying to reach a Titan. Is it the fact that you're getting interdicted on the way? Is it the fact that you're having a hard time escaping your interdictions? Is it what ship are you using to try to get to a Titan? Or as Barbecue is saying, is it actually getting past the cloud that you're struggling with? So need a bit more information. Parker is asking about the cutters being transporters because they can successfully evade hard interdictions. Well, they make for better tanks, and They are much faster, so yes, they can evade high predictions much more reliably. I also not sure the class 4 count in terms of slots, of internal slots, is concerned, but what matters as far as being a transporter is how many corrosion resistant cargo racks class 4, which is the maximum you can purchase, you can equip. And I don't know if the Type 9 has more or fewer than the cutter. Actually, the short answer is I don't know exactly why we're using cutters as transporters, or whether there are others that will be better at the task. But they work just fine. I'm just saying, caustic damage, 2 less sinks, and constantly get pushed away due to false timing. Okay, so I do have a few tips for you. Well, the question is also what ship are you trying to do it, right? Because like the faster the ship, generally the easier it is to get past the bar. The most important tip I can give you is to put 4 pips in system capacitor when the pulse wave starts charging, because the more pips you have in system, the longer you can hold the pulse neutralizer. You can hold it for many times the nominal value if you have 4 pips in sys. So that gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of mistiming your neutralizer fire. And I'm not sure I'm actually sending my Olympus to a correct scout right now, so give me a moment. Alright. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, once you're kind of through, like you can't get through to a Titan with a single caustic sink launcher, by the way, if you time things correctly. Seeing if there's anything else. Made a cutter my Oya destroyer. My cutter couldn't hold up. Yeah, the cutter definitely has an easier time getting away from interdictions and hyperdictions in particular. So, in that regard, the cutter makes for an easier time approaching Titans in the first place. The Conda, I mean, the Conda is a beast. Once you do get a Conda on target against the thermal core, it's one of the ships that's going to do the most damage you possibly can. The problem is getting it there and keeping it there and keeping it alive. So, in general, I don't recommend the... I don't recommend using a Conda for Titan operations for that reason. Captain Yosarin is asking for a sampling guide. We do have a sampling guide. We have several in written form. I think Sadina made a video somewhere. I could have pinned it in flight school, so let me dig it up. I think I know where to look. Yes, here it is. I will post the sampling guide here in a sec. If I can find the right channel. Flight school. There we go. Pins. Copy link. And dump it here in the chat. This is Sadina's wing sampling guide, or sampling guide. So that's probably where I would point you, as I personally have not made a guide for sampling. I am not an expert further, I will add. 6 enhanced AX missiles. HE8 TV beam. Yeah. Certainly the card rate doesn't make for the best toward running, but if you have one in the instance, then that's all you need. And Captain Yosaran, no, you can sample scouts all day long, as you can see here, and it's actually the easiest and the industrial way to do it, which is what we're doing here in a wing. It's a lot easier than anything else. Well, scythes are also pretty easy, but you cannot actually sell and buy scythe samples from carriers for some reason. So the logistics involved with scythe samples are not as good as the logistics with scout samples. That's why we use scout samples instead of scythe samples. Yeah, so the thermal vent beam, the thing about using a thermal vent beam is it prevents a Titan from going back to green alert if you're poking it with a thermal vent beam, which is annoying, especially if you're in a small group, because if you're in a small group you want it to go back to green, because when it goes back to green it actually recalls the patrols and tells them to leave, which if you've sort of gotten a lot of scouts from repeated cycles at the core, it's really nice to just have them just poof, go and vanish. But in order to do that, you need to reliably stay cold without using your thermal vent beam, which is why the builds we've designed naturally run cold and don't require a thermal vent beam to stay cold. Let's see. Ezra really wants to see a Titan go down. You will. I think, I mean, look, our current plan is, if, again, there are no further active surprises, come April 11, we're down to no more than 10, maybe even 9 controlled systems that we've already stocked pretty much all the samples we need for. We will clear them come April 18, and again, pending no additional after surprises, April 18 is the day we start our full-blown assault on Oya. And if sort of the resources and information we have is anything correct, we'll probably see Oya go down either late on Sunday the 21st or somewhere between Sunday evening and the 23rd, depending on, again, how many forces we muster and how much interest there is, which is very difficult to predict. Because for people who have not seen a Titan go down firsthand, there's definitely interest in doing that. But a lot of people have seen Titans go down, and many have seen 2 Titans go down, and the third one isn't really expected to be very different. So it's not that all that interesting kind of go bomb a Titan for a week, especially with a core getting bugged and getting stuck. It's a kind of frustrating experience, to be honest. Adam is saying, air shot content any good against Orpheus? Well, the question though is, are you talking about solo and non-human signal sources, or are you talking about Spire sites? Because for Spire sites, the build I linked, which is the Cytoplasma Conda, which is a little bit further up in the chat, if you can scroll up, is the best build for Spires in a group. If you're hunting solo, then you will be highly vulnerable to the anti-guardian field, and you probably will want to run serious anti-xeno missile racks. And that's going to be the best you can realistically run for solo or for hunting and non-human signal sources. It's very slow going, per your point, so it's not a common activity nowadays. You're looking to farm in solo due to your XML. I can only do 1 Orph per trip, so I was looking for an alternative but can't find anything reliable. Yeah, farming Orpheus solo just isn't reliable, honestly. Orpheus are not particularly well suited for solo hunting. You can take one down, but you have guardian weapons and they take significant damage from the anti-guardian field, or use anti-xeno missile racks, but those have comparatively limited ammo and don't do all that damage, so you run a risk of the Orpheus actually jumping away. So yeah, not particularly practical. What do we do with samples after filling a carrier? We hold them until the system reaches 85% through the Spire boost, the week that we are planning to hit it. And once it does, then we're cleared to unload them. So what we do is we jump our carriers to the closest rescue megaship. You can jump into any rescue megaship. And with our Type 9 full of cargo holds, we transfer the samples to rescue megaships. Takes a few trips, but again, it's the fastest way by a mile to kind of clear systems. In terms of the quickest way to get your fleet carrier, the answer is definitely Spire sites. I was mentioning I did make a video that explains how to go about Spire sites, but it hasn't been published yet because it's a collaboration with a Yamix and he's working on a bigger video that's like really farming everything and anything. So that's going to take a while before it's in the public domain. But if you're interested in learning more about farming Spire sites, you can join the Anti-Casino Initiative Discord, and there's always groups there that are active on farming Spire sites. But it's by far the fastest way to make money in the game right now, like by a wide margin. If you're gonna find the right system, or let's see. Yeah, menu logging again. You know, combat logging against other players is just lame, and it kind of violates, I think, most communities' rules, and it's just something you should never do. Combat logging against the Thargoid interceptor, I mean, that's up to you if you care to do it, or if you just want to let an NPC destroy your ship because the roll of the dice didn't go in your favor in a high prediction. I mean, that's okay too. That is a personal choice. Of course, thanks for joining, Adam. AX missiles are very reliable flying solo, especially with Cirrus missile racks, which do a lot of damage and have a pretty good ammo count as well. Alright. This message, by the way, coupled with the Galnet, is just such an embarrassment if you ask me, but whatever. I'm kind of curious to see if there's anything else that came out. I would probably get pinged multiple times if that was the case. I think we're also reaching the end of our sampling operations, as most of our commanders are kind of starting to time out, so soon we'll call it a wrap. You can make Rizzy money during the rescue missions. I don't know. I don't think I've ever done rescue missions. I don't think I should try. I know they're a fast way of grinding faction rank. That I had heard. I was saying I was doing the CZs, but unfortunately it just being me and some NPCs, and I got the way up to a Hydras, forget the name, and then that's me down. Yeah, that's the Interceptor wave. And doing a Hydra solo even with NPCs certainly does take time. Not to mention some general idea of what you're doing. Again, for the ones that have recently joined, we are doing wing-based sampling in one of the controlled systems around Oya. This is a group of Type 9s with Research Olympic controllers that are designated to sample the same scout over and over and over again. And then there's a collector cutter, or transporter cutter, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, that acts as our tank against the scout proper and as the gatherer of all the tissue samples that the Type 9s are producing for this process. Now we're starting to sort of like run thinner on commanders. We have 2 Type 9s, we used to have 4, and we have 1 transporter, we used to have a couple. But still, this progress we're making is still pretty remarkable. We'll look at the spreadsheet in a second also to see like how we're doing in terms of overall samples on ships. I don't know if Mediocre updated it recently, but we're delivering to one of his carrier right now. All right, let's see. All right, let's see. Yeah, I don't know that he has updated it just yet.
Research limpet engaged. Research limpet engaged.
3 billion in an afternoon for rescues is pretty good. While grinding Fed rank, I'll take it. Sampling, on the flip side, pretty much gives you no money. In fact, we are actually ponying up a few tens of billions of credits to pay for people who actually want to deliver samples as part of this process, since we can, and it's not like there's any use for money in the game after you pass a certain point. Oh, thank you. Mediocre has updated the spreadsheet, so now we can see that we are at 68% of the system that we're kind of sampling, which is the hardest of all systems. It's like 160,400 sample total, and the 15% we're going for is nothing less than 24,060. So we're currently at 16,000 and change. We'll have one of the 2 carriers that are full, and now we're delivering everything to the second carrier, Curious Saber, which is still relatively empty. But all in all, kind of made good progress. We do have a few more carriers we need to fill now, though, to be ready for next week. I think this system is going to fall, by the way, just looking at how it's going and where we are in the week. The other 2, though, I doubt. Like these 2, I think we will leave for next week with Spire Assist.
Research limpet successful.
All right, going back to...
Limpet successful.
We're heading back, so I think we're calling it a night. Very well, then we are fast traveling here as well. I'll just drop these while I'm at it. And then proceeding to move away from the sample, so otherwise they don't kind of like blow up in the process of like my ship blowing up. Alright. And we shall fast travel back to our carrier. With that, Commanders, I hope you enjoyed the stream, and it was great to chat with you for a little while. Hopefully you've found something of educational value. I don't want to say interesting, because like sampling, it's hard to call sampling like interesting as an activity. But hopefully you found something of educational value in the stream, and very much look forward to seeing you out in the war zone, and thank you for your support and help in fighting and taking down the systems around Oya, making it accessible to all. With that, Commander Meccan, over and out, and go to Mencken.